It is officially June, and at the start of every month, I'll spend some time giving you a window into what I watched over the previous month, both new and old, and share my thoughts on some of those films. Before we get into this, though, I'd appreciate it if you would subscribe to the channel on whatever podcast platform you're currently using, as well as rating and reviewing the show. In addition to that, you can also find the show on every major social media platform, including Instagram, Blue Sky, Twitter, and TikTok using the handle Almanac. With that out of the way, let's get into some of my May watches. Up first is Drop, a new horror thriller directed by Christopher Landon, most known for his work on Happy Death Day and its sequel Happy Death Day to You. The film has a simple enough premise. A young, widowed mother goes out on a blind date at a restaurant, and during the date she gets a threatening airdrop from inside the restaurant, unsure of who might be the one that's behind it. The movie is twisty and turny, and I've seen some say it's got Hitchcockian elements, but all I kept thinking was the acting and writing wasn't interesting enough to keep my attention for when the reveal eventually came. It's not that the movie's bad, it's just that it doesn't do anything new or interesting enough to warrant your time. Unless the trailer or overall synopsis really wows you, I'd say to drop this from your watch list and move on to better things in this endless sea of films we now swim in. I'm giving Drop a 6.1 out of 10. Next up is Death of a Unicorn, a rare dud from A24. I saw the trailer for this earlier in 2025 at the theater, and I have to admit that it was edited together very well, and immediately it got my attention. The unfortunate thing is the movie is so surface level and stale, I was ready to check out before the half-hour mark. On paper, it should work. It features a monster cast including Paul Rudd, Jenna Ortega, Will Poulter, and a woefully underutilized Richard E. Grant. The biggest flaw of the film is the writing. When it comes to the eat the rich genre, we have a wealth of options available to us, and almost all of them bring more to the table than this. Skip it. There's nothing magical about this film, and I'm going to give it a 6.3 out of 10. Shifting gears, we go to The Ugly Stepsister. This is a body horror film by first-time director Emily Blichfeld. I went into this knowing nothing, other than the people online were saying it was notable for its gore, and it was based on the story of Cinderella. As a lover of body horror films, this felt like it was going to be right in my wheelhouse, and for the most part, it was. The first act set the stage very well, with some good character building, and a few moments that made me squirm in my seat. I do think the second act meandered just a touch, but my god, when we got to the third act, things went haywire and the blood started to splatter. All in all, this isn't anywhere near some of the more extreme European horror films, so if you're worried it's going to be as violent and grotesque as, say, Martyrs or Inside from the French extreme horror movement, don't worry. It's nowhere near that level of holy shit, what am I watching? In fact, this may end up being a nice gateway into the genre for those that aren't as familiar and are more captivated by the fantasy fairy tale elements of the film. I'm going to give The Ugly Stepsister a strong 7.5 out of 10. The next film I got to in May was Warfare, the latest from acclaimed writer-director Alex Garland, someone who has had a hand in some of my favorite movies of the last 20 plus years, those including Ex Machina, Annihilation, and 28 Days Later. He's back with his second film dealing with war in consecutive years, fresh on the heels of Civil War from 2024. I was a big fan of that film, even if it got polarizing reactions online from both far left and far right pockets of the social media community. I appreciate that Garland isn't here to spend too much time in exposition or dumping heavy-handed political messages across his films. For me, it's obvious where he personally stands on things, and I can clearly see what he's trying to get across on camera. The difference between Civil War and Warfare is that this film is based entirely on a true story from Ray Mendoza and other members of a platoon who were deep in the thick of a battle during the Iraqi War in the mid-2000s. Everything that happens on camera is factual from the memories of at least 2 members of the squadron, with nothing heightened or sensationalized, an effective way to tell this small-scale story that had a profound impact on the men involved. Ray Mendoza was deeply involved in writing and directing the film alongside Garland, and that helps add an additional layer of authenticity. Much like Civil War, we have to tip our caps to the sound design, which uses silence to ratchet up the tension and perfectly captures the intensity of firefights when the bullets start flying. And we also have to talk about this cast, a real who's who of young male actors of this generation. It features Joseph Quinn, Charles Melton, Will Poulter, Cosmo Jarvis, Michael Gandolfini, and more. We could very easily look back on this film in 5 or 10 years and see multiple award-winning actors that all featured in the ensemble. The real standout actor, though, is DeFaro Wu-Natai, who plays Ray Mendoza. He's brilliant. I remember being impressed with him on the FX show Reservation Dogs back in 2021, and he's got a very bright career ahead. I personally prefer Civil War, but I find this film to be a very good film, with the intentions of its existence to be pure and important to those men involved, who will all be able to use this as a reminder of their brotherhood and bond they forged through the dangerous circumstances involved. I give Warfare a 7.5 out of 10.
We're all getting fed up of endlessly scrolling for our next movie fix. So to get passionate about films again, join 3 movie mates on the Never Ending Watchlist movie podcast, where we take you on a movie journey as we seek to build the ultimate movie watchlist.
Seen all of those films are absolute bangers.
Yeah.
Absolute bangers.
Bangers.
I applaud you again, sir.
We deep dive specific movies to find out facts, theories, and funny takes, and ultimately decide whether a movie is worthy of being on the watchlist.
I can't recommend this film.
Oh!
We'll debate top 5s, rank directors' movies, and interview film fans just like you.
And she is an incredibly complex villain. She's fierce, she's immovable.
So whether you're a casual movie fan or hardened cinephile, we've got plenty for you to enjoy.
I got outvoted by the guy who chose the movie for this episode.
Join me, Damon Carter, Alex Hall, and Cam Young on the Never Ending Watchlist movie podcast every week on Podcasts Everywhere.
It's easier to find Cameron on Facebook than it is to find a plot in existence. Right, anyway, for now, it's farewell to Alex.
Now let's have a few laughs. Let's talk about Summer of '69, a new comedy film available on Hulu. It's the directorial debut of Jillian Bell and stars SNL cast member Chloe Fineman. Much like Bottoms a couple years ago, the movie proves that raunchy, sex-positive comedies aren't just a thing of the past. I had a really good time with this, but instead of listening to me talk about it, I want to direct you to an episode by my good friend James Chalmers of I Was a Teenage Film Snob. He's the person that got this movie onto my watch list with his glowing review, and he just had the director Jillian Bell on his show to discuss the film and her experiences working on it. It's a terrific interview, and you should set aside an hour of your day after listening to this to check out that episode and support James, who's one of the good ones. My score for the movie is an obvious one. It's got to be a 6.9 out of 10. Up next, the first of 2 Disney live-action remakes, Snow White. To those out there that refuse to watch this based on past history Disney has with their live-action remakes, I completely understand. The studio's success rate is woeful to this point, and this movie isn't going to help quiet the critics. There isn't any real need for this movie to exist at all. Having said that, though, I thought the musical numbers were decent, and I actually really liked what Rachel Zegler brought to the film as the lead. She's beautiful, she's talented, she's captivating. The problem is she's just surrounded by actors who are less talented, or they're buried in a world of CGI and green screen crap. I could have also done with someone much more skilled in the role of the evil queen, because Gal Gadot, while physically stunning, can be as lifeless an actor as the computer-generated minors. Pass on this and just go back to the original version if you want to experience the magic Disney used to be known for. Snow White is a dud, and it's going to get a 4.6 out of 10. Up next, I saw The Ballad of Wallace Island. Now, I came into this movie with very high expectations, as it received near universal acclaim coming out of the Sundance Film Festival in January. It also stars Carey Mulligan, one of the most talented actors currently working. It's the story of a folk duo who are no longer making music together, but are brought together through a wealthy fan who gets them both to Wallace Island, a place he resides entirely alone. The story deals with grief and guilt, and it's got plenty of warmth to it. It's just that it didn't quite meet my expectations, which is really more my fault than that of the film. It's a good movie that I thought I'd walk away from calling great. But if you like quieter, more nuanced humor, you'll probably pull plenty out of this movie. It's something easy to recommend because it has an appeal to a wide audience. I'm going to give The Ballad of Wallace Island a very good score of 7.1 out of 10. It's time for Netflix to come to the party with a new film that they have out called Nona's. This is a biographical film about Joe Scaravella, the owner of a restaurant in Staten Island. It stars a great cast, including Vince Vaughn playing Scaravella, as well as Susan Sarandon, Lorraine Bracco, Talia Shire, Linda Cardellini, and Joe Manganiello. The movie itself is pretty harmless, which means it's neither great nor bad, but one that's designed to be appealing to a range of movie watchers in age and demographic. When it comes to movies dealing with food, my score usually comes down to how hungry I get afterwards. This one isn't on the level of something like Jon Favreau's Chef, which left me salivating for a Cubano sandwich. All in all, Nona's is going to probably end up as a casual watching experience or just an easy background film while you do other things around the house. It's a movie you could easily watch on your phone too, so there's that for better or worse. I'm going to rate this film a 6.4 out of 10. Sticking with Netflix, let's talk about a new action film they have out, directed by Gareth Evans. It's called Havoc. Now, Gareth Evans is probably most famous for his work on the legendary action film The Raid. This time, he's got some heavyweight acting talent at his disposal, including Tom Hardy, Forrest Whitaker, Timothy Olyphant, and Luis Guzman. Now, I would expect Gareth Evans to bring nothing but the best when it comes to the action choreography, and Havoc has that in spades. The problem is, the first hour of the movie, the story makes no sense and I don't care about it at all, so it's really hard for me to connect up until the point the action really kicks in. I do think if you can wade through what is a slog for the first hour, if you're just here to watch a bunch of really good action sequences, try to tough it out and enjoy the second half of the movie. It is an above average experience, thanks mostly to Tom Hardy carrying the film, and I'm going to give it a 6.5 out of 10. Moving over to something I enjoyed quite a bit more, The Assessment, a new science fiction film directed by Fleur Fortune. Now, I'd heard good things about this film, mainly from my favorite film critic over in the UK, Mark Kermode. The general premise of the film is interesting. It's a future world where there are extreme regulations on childbirth, and in order to be selected to have a kid, you have to be properly assessed over a period of 7 days. Elizabeth Olsen and Himesh Patel play the couple who are looking to have a child of their own. The film follows the week-long period of time where they are watched and observed by their assessor, played by Alicia Vikander. Much like another film starring Vikander, that being Ex Machina, this film plays out largely in the confines of a single home. All the actors bring it, but Vikander is the real standout. There's no way she's going to get any consideration for awards at the end of this year, but that's a real shame. She delivers one of the best performances I've seen year to date, and I hope more people check it out. I'm not going to reveal anything, but there were a few scenes where she pretends to be a child, and it really got to me as a parent myself. She's brilliant and proves it yet again here. I thought the movie delivered throughout each act, and the conclusion of the story and the final few shots of the film just hit me in the right spot. My final assessment of this film is a 7.9 out of 10. Up next is a film called The Girl with the Needle. Now, I know I'm a little late to the party on this, as it was up for Best International Feature at the most recent Academy Awards, and it was one of the few nominated films I couldn't get to before the ceremony. Let me just start out by saying, wow, this is a bleak film. Now, it's shot beautifully in vivid black and white, but director Magnus von Horn packs a whole lot of pain and anguish inside the film. Now, I knew nothing about the subject matter beforehand, and I'm also not easily turned off by a film, no matter the content. But I'd advise checking some trigger warnings if you're going to think about watching this movie yourself. All the actors are mesmerizing, but the thing that hooked me into this the most is the musical score. It's dissident and disturbing, setting the tone for the entire film, leaving you uneasy from start to finish. I can absolutely see why this was in contention for an Oscar, and it's now inside my top 20 films of 2024 after watching it. It's a great film with an even greater score, and I'm going to give it an 8.4 out of 10. The next film I got to was The Legend of Ochi. Now, this movie's been on my radar for a little while. I saw the trailer for it at the theater back in January, and I felt that it had the bones of a throwback 80s kids film, brimming with a bit more practical effects, and maybe even a touch darker in tone than standard kid fare films these days. That is definitely what the final product ended up being. It brought back immediate nostalgia vibes for me, feeling like something that would have come out of the Amblin Studios in the 1980s, or along the same lines as The Neverending Story. I am glad I watched this though without my kids first, because there were a few moments with both the Ochi creatures and Willem Dafoe, who has just a generally frightening appearance in the film, where I think my boys could have easily found what was happening on screen to be a touch frightening for them. It never lasts for long though, and it settles nicely back into a sweet spot. It's got heart, whimsy, and an adventurous nature about it. It's going to get lost quickly in the shuffle of more popular or blockbuster kids movies over this summer, but those that discover this over the next few years are going to be handsomely rewarded for it. And I wouldn't be surprised if this becomes something of a cult hit over time. I'm going to give The Legend of Ochi a 7.5 out of 10. And the final movie I saw in May was easily the one that was most anticipated by my little nuclear family of 4, Lilo and Stitch. This IP is very unique in the world of Disney. I can't say either of my boys ever had a moment where they obsessed over the original Lilo and Stitch the way they did with other stuff, mostly of the Pixar variety. But my youngest son has managed to gravitate towards Stitch as a character, mainly through incredible branding and merchandising. He has Stitch clothes, Stitch blankets, multiple stuffy toys, and from the moment we saw the first teaser trailer, I knew this was going to be something we had to see on opening weekend. So we rolled into a packed theater for a 10 a.m. showing on Memorial Day, with popcorn, snacks, and settled into our very comfy seats. Quick shout out to Marcus Theaters, which is based in the Midwest. They have incredibly inviting theater spaces, featuring fully reclinable seats, seat warmers, and tables at each seat in their super screen rooms to hold your food and drink. Now I know people are mixed on Disney live action remakes, and I agree that not all are worth your time. Look at Snow White. But there are a few noteworthy exceptions. Jon Favreau's The Jungle Book, Pete's Dragon by David Lowery, and even the Cruella film starring Emma Stone. All movies I've gone back to multiple times that don't feel purely like easy-to-make cash grabs. Lilo and Stitch fortunately falls into this bracket of the live-action remake, and not into the garbage pile alongside something like Robert Zemeckis' Pinocchio. It's directed by Dean Fleischer Camp, who recently pulled off a successfully weird film in Marcel the Shell with Shoes On. Disney did have the sense to bring along Chris Sanders to voice Stitch, as he is the one who did the voice work in the original animated film. Thank you to whoever decided we didn't need another animated character with Chris Pratt doing the voice for. The film really has to hinge on the young actress, though, playing the Lilo character, and kudos to whoever was involved in the casting decision. Maya Kealoha is adorable, and she is able to convey a range of emotions well beyond her years. The film also has strong work from Sydney Elizabeth Agudong as Nani, Zach Galifianakis, Billy Magnuson, Courtney B. Vance, and Hannah Waddingham in other supporting roles. My boys were laughing at the right moments, and the film managed to tug on my wife and my heartstrings enough to evoke tears at key emotional moments multiple times over. It's no surprise this is already a smash hit for Disney, and a sequel will undoubtedly be greenlit soon, perhaps even before you're hearing me talk about this right now. Lilo and Stitch was a fantastic experience, and I'm going to give it a 7.8 out of 10. Have you ever wanted to interact in person with your favorite independent movie podcasters? June 3rd through June 6th, 2026. Lake Superior State University, Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan, the Upper Peninsula. Adam St. John of the incredible 1001 by 1 podcast is hosting a special event that you are invited to. Come hang out with Adam, myself, and many others who have already RSVP'd, with plenty more to follow. We'll be screening movies as a group, networking, hosting panels on a range of topics, and the event will feature live podcasts that you can be part of in person. And all of this will be free of charge. We'll have plenty more details in the months to come, But if you want to reserve your place at the festival, send your RSVP directly to Adam by emailing 1001by1@gmail.com. We can't wait to see you there. And to wrap things up, we'll deviate just a little bit to some television, because one of my all-time favorite series is Netflix Black Mirror. On last month's recap episode, I mentioned I watched the first half of season 7, and I highlighted my 2 favorite episodes to that point. I have since watched the final 3 episodes of the latest season, and I wanted to review each of those really quickly for you. Up first, we have episode 4, which was titled Plaything. This episode is directed by David Slade, who also did the high-concept interactive Black Mirror experience Bandersnatch a few years ago. And it makes sense, because it's set in the same world due to Will Poulter's character from Bandersnatch popping up here for a brief cameo. This isn't the first time a Black Mirror episode has involved video games, and though tastes may vary, I doubt it'll be at the top of anyone's list of video game-based episodes of the show. It's good, but it doesn't quite hit on all cylinders. That said, Peter Capaldi, who plays the lead role in the episode, is having a blast with the story, and it was fun to see him since the last time I really watched him, which was on his run as Doctor Who. I thought Plaything was a pretty good episode, and I'm going to give it a 7.2 out of 10. Moving on to episode 5, which was titled Eulogy. Now, this was a really nice change of pace episode, and it starred the always great to see on screen Paul Giamatti. He plays a man whose ex has recently died, and a new technology is being used to piece together and memorialize her life using past photos to build an immersive experience. Giamatti's character starts out happy to help share some of those photos he claims to have, only to find out that drudging back up the memories of the past has opened up wounds inside him that haven't fully healed. This episode wisely doesn't rely on technology as a huge gimmick to build the episode around, and is much more grounded with a nicely put together screenplay and lets the actors shine. There is a reveal mid-episode that caught me totally off guard and really turned the episode into something different, something special. This is a raw episode packed with an emotional gut punch that'll have you reeling. Because it was so unexpected, I'd say this is one of the best episodes of the show, or at the very least over the last few years. It's the type of episode you can enjoy even if you're not into the idea of the show concept as a whole. I'm going to give Eulogy an 8.5 out of 10. And then the final episode, episode 6, was titled USS Callister Into Infinity. Now, this episode is a direct sequel to the first USS Callister that featured several seasons back. That remains one of my favorite episodes of the show to date, featuring incredible actors, a fun story, and some nice callbacks to sci-fi shows of the past like Star Trek. I was wondering why the Black Mirror team felt compelled to extend the story, but went in with an open mind. The first thing that caught my attention was the 90-minute runtime. That's literally a feature-length film. So, was it necessary for this episode to exist or for it to be as long as a movie? No, and definitely no. The episode is perfectly fine. It still acted well, but it didn't do anything with the story of the original USS Callister to warrant the existence of this. And from what I've seen online and heard from friends who watched the show, that seems to be the common consensus. While still a decent episode, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. All in all, I think this season was solid, with 50% of the episodes being ones I really enjoyed and would probably go back and watch again. It also featured a couple episodes that were okay to good, and only one that I'd call a flat-out dud. It also featured a couple episodes that I would say were okay to good, and it only had one episode that I would call a flat-out dud. If I was to rank this season top to bottom, I would put it as Common People as the best, followed by Eulogy, Hotel Reverie, which are both very good, then USS Callister, then Plaything, and then at the very bottom would be Bête Noire. And I was also talking to my sister-in-law, who shares my passion for Black Mirror, and she thought it would be really cool if Netflix would let people customize the show and make their own season of existing episodes to curate for someone that hadn't seen the show. I thought this was a clever mental exercise since there are some real winners in the series, but there's also some duds that you wouldn't want someone new to the show to watch ahead of others. Her suggestion was to take the episode Nosedive as the first for someone new to the show, best capturing the way the show plays with future tech and what could go wrong if something like that existed. But I want to pose this question to you. So if you're a Black Mirror fan, email me at revisionistalmanac@yahoo.com or DM me on any social media platform using the handle RevAlmanac, and let me know what 2 or 3 episodes you'd recommend to someone new to the show. So, do you agree with any of my reviews, or do you think I'm way out of line with some of the scores I've just given? You can reach out to me directly and let me know, either through a DM or emailing into the show. At the time of this recording on June 1st, a new episode of the regular monthly revised Oscars is only a few days away. I was joined by 2 first-time guests, the dynamic husband and wife duo of Never Seen It podcast, Betsy and Trent Gorham, and we look back on the 1976 Year in Film and Academy Awards ceremony that saw Rocky win Best Picture. Did the 3 of us agree with any of the wins that year, including John G. Avildsen, Peter Finch, and Faye Dunaway? You're just going to have to tune into that episode and find out for yourself. That is going to wrap things up for my May watches. I hope you had a little bit of fun listening to this, and be on the lookout for more of this series at the start of every new month. I am, of course, Andrew, and I can't wait to see you next time.